Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally, of course, the Nintendo Switch version as the version I'm currently playing still. So, last time, or specifically yesterday, we have managed able to tackle through expert difficulty, like we went through stage 1 all the way up to stage 16, specifically 50 regular stages, and on top of that, 10 extra stages, so making a grand total of 60 stages, as you can tell from that particular description for it. So, anyway though, despite I did somehow manage to fell off quite a few times, but that's okay, because obviously we don't have to worry about the falls of the massive frustration until later on throughout the majority of challenge mode. So because of this though, today for this video, as you can definitely tell on screen, and despite the fact that I have to deal with the forms of the most awkward commentary if possible, but that's just because about the fact that, my god, I can never sleep well last night. Mainly because, well, for one noticeable thing, that the weather condition in the UK is still pretty bad. To be more specifically, not only do we able to come across into rain again during the course of in the month of July, but also, get this, is that the wind keep on waking me up, and as a result, I apologize for that particular awkward commentary for this point, guys. Especially noticeable because concerning about that particular point where we're still on the forms of a slower side, when it comes to able to dealing with the uploading schedules as much as we possibly could. But either way though, I promise you guys, enjoy at some point until the next weekend, then I'm sure enough we will be able to actually back on track for more uploading schedules for the time being. So, anyway, for today, for this video right here, is about the fact that we're about to be tackling through, without doubt, the hardest difficulty in Super Monkey Ball 1 Challenge Mode, and that's of course Master Mode, which meaning about the fact that this is where the game starts to get a bit more difficult, especially noticeable if you're probably familiar with those specific stages before, specifically in Super Monkey Ball 1, for those of you who want to able to check those out. So because of this though, wish me luck, I guess. Especially noticeable about the fact, as I mentioned this before, I don't think it's possible I can able to do a marathon version of the forms of not only Super Monkey Ball 1 challenge mode, but also with Super Monkey Ball 2 challenge mode as well. Meaning about the fact that you go through the exactly same stages as before, except the fact that, as I mentioned this before, that in Super Monkey Ball 1 challenge mode, in marathon mode, obviously you don't need to worry about the forms of repeated bonus stages from time to time, including extra stages as well, meaning about the fact that you only see them once for the entire portion of the forms of the marathon difficulty. So, and on top of all that stuff though, is about the fact that I feel like marathon is definitely take a very long time to able to get to this point. Although luckily I can able to actually do that on the Switch version, because obviously I can play this version of the game on the go, like if I go out in some places without needing to worry about the forms of certain, you know, stuck indoors and stuff like that for that specific matter. So, but either way though, you probably get the gist of that particular point. So, anyway though, a few things I want to explain for this point today, and that is about the fact that today's date, of course, the 23rd of July today, in this case in 2023 today, and tomorrow, for those of you who lived in the UK, the Super Mario Bros. Movie for the DVD and Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray is definitely coming tomorrow. So because of that though, I'm very excited about this as well, especially concerning about that particular point that thankfully we were able to actually be hyped about the forms of Mario again during the course of in 2023, after the forms of a bit of a lackluster experience in 2022, well, aside from one exception, that's of course Mario Plus Rapid Sparks of Hope, because obviously about the fact I was being hyped about that particular game ever since when it first been announced, since thanks to the forms of the leak back in 2021, but also with the announcement trailer as well. But even then though, that every now and then I'm actually still gonna be able to take a break for a game for a while, because now I'm waiting for the third and final DLC to come. So, but either way though, we still have no idea when that's gonna be releasing. Well, at least we're hoping that the actual final general Nintendo Direct will be announced at some point by the end of the falls of this year in particular. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about the specific solution. So, but I digress. So, yeah, if you're probably wondering about that particular point where the fact that, unfortunately though, about the fact that my laptop keeps lagging again, so as a result, that between the forms of, not only Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, but Sonic Frontiers as well, that both of those episodes, or specifically, one of those Let's Plays in general, seem to have a lot of uploading schedules struggling at one point, which, as a result, don't worry, we will try to fix that at some point. It's just about the fact that this is a perfect example of why that this video might took a bit too long to able to actually get this thing going. Especially noticeable because, well, recently, I've managed able to actually, first time I've ever played Pikmin 4 on my own time, and oh no, for I've played it on my own time, I actually really enjoy it so far. Although sure, it might take a bit while to get used to with how the main mechanics works, and especially noticeable about the fact that I'm very happy about the fact that the cave system does make a return ever since in Pikmin 2, which I appreciate. And I think something tells me I think we might able to come across into more caves this time around compared to the forms of how it does it in Pikmin 2, as far as I'm aware. Well, mind you about the fact that it's been a very, very long while since I finally come back into the forms of the Pikmin swing of things. Especially noticeable because, again, that I'm very appreciated I can finally give the actual Pikmin series a second chance. Although, I felt incredibly bad for able to actually sell my Olimar amiibo figure based off from Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U. Well, that's just because about the fact that every now and then that these amiibos, specifically the paused amiibos based off from the Super Smash Bros. Lineup, is actually gonna get super duper expensive these days. Especially noticeable with, like, you know, brand new sealed ones, and especially noticeable with the forms of some other variants as well. And you probably named the actual idea for this particular solution in mind. So, but I digress. So yeah, you probably get the idea about the fact that, as you probably couldn't tell already, every now and then, that in addition about the fact that this will be the last time we're going to be hearing the remixed music in the background, but it's also worth noting for this will be the last time we're going to be seeing Sonic in action, sadly, because until by that time, once we get into Super Monkey Ball 2 Challenge Mode, you can probably get the idea of what the next character I'm going to be selecting for next time. And that is, of course, Tails. So as a result, that we have not seen Tails in action just yet, and especially noticeable about that time was once we get to the forms of the special challenges, specifically bonus modes and stuff like that, we can pretty much show you guys the forms of not only the 3 playable Sega consoles, specifically Sega Game Gear, Sega Saturn, as well as Sega Dreamcast. I apologize for that particular belchiness at the moment, but that's just because about the fact that I believe Sonic did somehow manage able to force me to able to eat one of these chili dogs, but even then though, I'm still perfectly fine, so don't you guys worry. So, anywho though, as far as everything else I could possibly explain about this, unfortunately though, when it comes to me playing Pikmin 4 on my own time for a bit, I might able to actually play the game not very often, but I will occasionally go back onto the game, mainly because about the fact that, as I mentioned this before, I need to get a lot of usage on the forms of certain mechanics of this game plays out to be. In addition to that though, is about the fact that there are certain enemies that are a piece of cake. What I've noticed, whenever I did manage to defeat certain Bulborbs and stuff like that for what of those creatures are, but some of these brand new creatures, they are very tricky to able to actually just try to deal with. Although sure enough though, I will try to able to get a lot of practice on it at some point, especially noticeable because, well, what I've noticed about the fact that a lot of people get a lot of hyped about Pikmin 4 after when it finally came out, and as a result, a lot of people got really digging into it. And the good thing too is about the fact that, as far as we already mentioned about this already, thank God there's a file selection screen in the forms of Pikmin 4, just like the previous Pikmin games, including Hey Pikmin and Pikmin 3 Deluxe. The only exception being is the Wii U version of Pikmin 3, because gee, no wonder why the Wii U version, or specifically the Wii U, seems able to become a bit of a flop at the end. So, but I digress. Although nothing wrong with the actual Wii U version per se, but it's just about the fact that I just really wish if you do able to, well, if you ever experienced the game for your first time, obviously if you really want to dive right into the actual one of those files you can able to select, well, obviously about the fact no matter what though, that you have to able to, well, it's a bit tricky to explain. So, And as you can see about the fact that since I'm pretty much stuck on Stamina Master, and as a result, I was trying to able to pull off that nice little shortcut right down there, but sometimes I will admit though right away, much like the forms of the original counterparts of this stage, including the Super Monkey Ball Deluxe variation of this particular stage, basically it's just about the fact that you have to be so accurate with all that particular mid-air movements and stuff like that, including with your momentum as well. And gee, Stamina Master is the absolute test. So, yeah, which as a result, I still have no idea how on earth am I supposed to able to actually go past for that particular moving blocks which moves way too fast, and as a result that I can never able to actually get to that ribbon part. So yeah, the only thing I did manage to able to beat this stage is by doing that particular shortcut, as I mentioned this earlier, but sometimes it can be very difficult to execute, so, but I digress. So, I will admit though right away, I do like this music, but I will admit though, I still prefer the original OST version of this particular music, specifically based off on the classic music, so, but regardless of everything else though, I'm still biased I guess when it comes to like preferring original nostalgia music compared to the forms of how it does in the newer incarnation of these things, so, which, you know, is very similar for that regard for the likes of the forms of, you know, Mario Party Superstars, well, specifically if you're one of those regular game boards, like 5 main boards, although I would admit it though right away, that I usually do prefer the remixed music in the Kingdom Hearts games, like specifically with Kingdom Hearts Final Mix and Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, like when it comes to able to remaster the actual music, which as a result I do prefer those way better than the forms of how it does in the original counterparts to me though, like for instance with the forms of Lazy Afternoons played in the forms of Roxas's scenario in Twilight Town. I do prefer the remastered version of that music this time around because my god, it sounds a lot more relaxing. And on top of that, with the forms of Sinister Sundown, the battle theme of the forms of Twilight Town, and Roxas's version of Twilight Town, I mean, relatively speaking though, you probably get the idea about that, so. Anywho though, there's another thing I should probably explain about this as well, and that is about the fact that recently, I've managed to able to pre-order not only from the likes of the forms of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, despite the fact that I was originally trying to able to pre-order that at some point in September, but ultimately speaking though, I also managed to order Pikmin 1 plus 2 as a double combo pack for the Nintendo Switch. Why? Well, for one noticeable thing, I do like the actual idea about the forms that we're able to get ourselves a split screen or a split cover between the Japanese cover arts between both Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, although despite the fact that unfortunately though we're no longer able to see the clay formations of the forms of, you know, the Pikmin's design themselves, unlike any forms of how it does it in the original counterparts of Pikmin 2's box art. Well, at least specifically for not only the GameCube, but also on the Wii version as well. And also in addition to that, about the fact that we can able to complete the entire saga of the Pikmin games on one specific system on the Nintendo Switch, obviously. So even then, you know, kind of like the forms of how it does it in Xenoblade Chronicles. The only exception being is, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles X, because that was the only game in the series has been left for the sake of the forms of the only ones remaining to able to come onto the Switch, but we still have no idea if Xenoblade Chronicles X will be releasing on the Nintendo Switch at this point in time, especially concerning about that particular, I would say how massive that game can be, and in addition to that though, about the fact that, well, we shall see what happens in due time, especially noticeable, we're still in, July after all, and then we're actually getting very close towards the end of July before we move on to August, so. Oh, and in addition to that though, is about the fact that, I love the fact that, well, every time whenever I managed able to, accomplish something for the sake of the forms of Pikmin 4, that at the very least though, about the fact that, usually relatively speaking, is that the Ice Pikmin is actually very handy to me though, when it comes to able to try to deal with the forms of the enemy combat here and there. Although mind you, I haven't exactly stumbled across into a very first boss fight, for some time now, especially concerning about that particular point where certain caves are very shorter. In addition to that though, about the fact that they're pretty easy sometimes, But either way, speaking of something easy, I've noticed that Dance Master is actually a lot easier this time around compared to the forms of how it does it on the original counterparts, because in the original version of that particular stage of Dance Master, those tiles move extremely fast in the original version, whilst in here though, they move extremely slow, which as a result, something tells me there's going to be another variant of that particular stage coming up, so... And as you can tell with Roll Master, with that particular nice shortcut as I've shown you right now, thankfully is a lot more manageable, especially noticeable that sometimes you have to get used to with the forms of that specific timing in mind, and yeah, you probably get the idea. Oh boy, Edge Master. I believe between both Stamina Master as well as Edge Master, I will say those stages are really difficult, especially noticeable in Edge Master. Because I will admit though right away that, as I said before, that Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania is not the perfect game, because I'll admit though right away is that specifically in this stage, alongside with the forms of the upcoming stages based off from Super Monkey Ball 2 until later on, I will admit, the actual movement, whatever when you're trying to able to deal with the forms of certain tilted stages, like specifically as soon as when the stage itself to somehow turns into the opposite direction, or something relates to that. My god, I'm seriously having yourselves a very stupid luck when it comes to able to try not to fall off at any point in during the forms of Edge Master, or in some stages for that matter, because no matter what though, despite the momentum isn't perfect, because as a result of that kind of stuff, though, there are a couple of times where I swear that I was trying to able to actually make it to the other side of the actual platform, or in one of those moving platforms, or moving stage in general, that sometimes my timing isn't exactly the most precise as I would like it will be. Especially noticeable, to make matters worse, that it is very luck-based at times, even if you manage able to tilt the control stick, or anything else like that. And I seriously swear to god, I always fall off in certain situations like this, especially noticeable when it gets to the point until on the final stage, in Super Monkey Ball 2 challenge mode, on the forms of this particular game right there. My god, you're never gonna believe of what I'm just gonna have to witness at some form or another, so... But either way, that'll be a topic for a later time. So either way, while on the subject for this matchup though, speaking of Xenoblade Chronicles stuff, basically, again, I apologize for my commentary is a bit off at points, especially because, again, I felt a little bit slightly tired today. So I definitely need to get some better sleep at some point after when I finish this recording. Although I'm assuming, of course, about the fact that I don't want to let not only Donkey Kong, but also with Shadow just keep on waking me up. So, but either way, though, but that'll be a topic for later, I guess. So, anyways, let's talk about something related to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, as a result, as I mentioned this before, that game is now on to version 2.1.0. And meaning about the fact that they did manage to able to patch certain things, including some additional content they'll bring, thanks to the forms of both Pyra and Mithra, amiibos based off from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has finally came out. And I suppose we only got one amiibo left, and that's of course Sora himself. But we have no idea when is Sora amiibo will expected to come. So I suppose we'll find out later down the road. So, anywho though, as far as I'm aware, they do have an additional functionality for that particular version 2.1.0 recently in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That is of course about the fact that with Pyra and Mithra amiibos is now being accessible by scanning into the forms of the actual amiibo in the actual system, amiibo in the menu screen, and you would be able to actually get yourselves a very special clothing items or something. Like usually we get ourselves the forms of Akira's sword for the likes of not only Pyra but also Mithra as well, but it's been limited by the forms of sword fighter, at least as far as I'm aware. So, and also about the fact that they somehow managed able to get ourselves a I would classify as saying one of those weird things to say, that there was actually a thing called a new pawn NPC that Meebo Me, I think is what it says anyway, has appeared at Lidran I can't really pronounce that. I do apologize for this point, folks. But I'm sure that some people already expected or already expected what that particular another feature updates they'll brings us into. But when it comes to the forms of patch updates, when it comes to the forms of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 as the game itself, they did manage to able to fix quite a number of things. Well, not usually too many, but usually just only a little amount. Like, for instance, they've now managed to increase the percentage chance to require, you know, battle manuals, tactic manuals, and strategy manuals. So, I guess that's that. And they also fixed an issue where players were unable to reattempt the final boss after experiencing a party wipe. And finally, they fixed an issue where some players were unable to complete the Chapter 2 quest, which is essentially pursue Glimmer, and who's thought to have headed northwest. So, yeah, I guess that fixed that particular issue now, didn't it? Especially noticeable about the fact that despite I still haven't experienced the game for myself, you see, because mind you, I'm still... Well, what I'm going to do is that as soon as when the actual Nintendo Switch is almost ending to its lifespan at some point, then obviously about the fact that I'll give the actual Xenoblade Chronicles another chance for not only play through the first game, Definitive Edition again, just to give that game another chance, and exponentially just trying to try out Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the first time, including DLC on that as well, and the third entry also with DLC as well, assuming of course if I'm not too late, until whenever God knows if the eShop is about to close down on the Switch at some point until in 2030's era, which, my god, that would be, you know, kind of bad if that seems to be the case, so, but I digress. Oh yeah, and they also mentioned something related to the forms of something related to Adventure Time, and as a result, there's going to be a new chapter that's going to be on its way. Like, it's to be more specifically, like, I don't know, it's a bit tricky to explain because I never actually watched that much of Adventure Time, so forgive me if I did somehow manage to able to not see that particular cartoon series. Well, that's just because I've heard of it, but I've never actually experienced most of those episodes in Adventure Time. Well, that's just because about the fact that I'm more into the forms of other cartoons recently, including not only a lot of rewatched episodes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because I still usually care for Friendship is Magic era, compared to the forms of how it does it for at the moment, that I'm actually almost lose interested with Generation 5 again. I have no idea why. That's just because about the fact that at this point in time, once Make Your Mark is about to conclude, at some point by the end of this year, oh man, that'll be kind of, that'll be something else though. But that'll be discussion for later time, assuming of course if Ray were able to discuss more details about that. Until then again, when he's fully become better, until when he goes back on to Super Mario RPG again, so... And relatively speaking though, about the fact that when it comes to some sad news to talk about, that obviously someone said in the comments in the section down below, during the forms of the past few days or something like that, unfortunately though, the legendary singer called Tony Bennett has recently passed away. And as a result, about the fact he was, you know, 96 years old. So even then though, yeah, it's pretty sad able to let him pass away. And as a result, yeah, everyone else has been talked about it during the forms of the news, articles, and anything else to be more specific, which is understandably so, because, you know, he's the most important guy in the world when it comes to likely for its singing performance. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about that. So, anyway though, there's another thing I should probably explain about this as well, is that the SDCC is about to be hosting not only a visit to the forms of the Sonic Speed Cafe, but also just met up with Sonic as, well, one of those mascots or something like that. But also we are able to actually check out the forms of a LEGO merchandise for the sake of Sonic the Hedgehog. And as a result, it does look pretty cool though, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, despite the fact that I haven't exactly purchased LEGO stuff for a very long time, since Super Mario LEGO set, to be more specifically with the starter course pack featuring Mario of course. And as a result for that kind of stuff though, because usually relatively speaking though, at this point in time is that my room is almost running out of space at some form or another, including about the fact that since we got ourselves Pikmin 4 poster, along with the game itself, I have no idea what the heck am I supposed to able to place my Pikmin 4 poster. I mean, it's possible I could possibly be able to actually place it underneath my other wall shelf, featuring the forms of certain Nintendo Switch games and PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 games on there, and even especially noticeable with the majority of the Microsoft games for Xbox. So, I mean, I suppose I might as well give it a go at some point once I finish this particular recording session anyway. So, but either way, that totally seems the case. So, I digress. Oh, jeez. I'm having a lot of fallouts on this particular stage so far, because again, that, I will admit though, the momentum is not perfect. It's kind of difficult to explain, because even then though, it's been about quite a few hours since I actually have last played this, you know? But still, about the fact that, well, I'm just apologizing about the fact that this commentary doesn't seem to go as well as I thought it was. Especially noticeable about the fact that I almost assumed that this particular video is actually going to get a lot quicker than I thought it was. But either way though, as far as I'm aware, this is by far the shortest video we've ever done so far in Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania so far. So either way though, that must have been said something. So there we go, finally. Now we can able to move along. So anyway, as far as I'm aware, now we're on to Dodge Master, and as far as I'm aware, Dodge Master is also kind of easy as well, much like the forms of Dance Master, because as far as I'm aware, those little block type things is actually moving a lot slower, so yeah, I guess that's relatively easy this time around though, don't you think? Although, mind you, there's going to be another variation of that particular stage until for later on, so... And of course, we've met again with Bridge Master, but thankfully we can now able to actually activate that nice little shortcut a lot easier this time around because of the funds that particular momentum thing as you saw. So but either way though, almost to the final stage, and not only in Super Monkey Ball 1 portion of the game, but also with the entire Master stages. And as a result, we have Monkey Master, and as you can tell, the goal placement is actually a lot different this time around, because rather than being onto the actual on top of the forms of its head, but it's now being placed on the center of the face. So, to make things a little bit more easier for you, if you're having struggling with that, back in the forms have been not only in Super Monkey Ball 1, but also with Super Monkey Ball Deluxe as well, so keep that in mind. So, and that was it folks, that was it for Super Monkey Ball 1 Challenge Mode. Again, I would have liked to do the Marathon Mode, but I'm just going to skip it for now. So even then though, with that being said, we got the endings off at this point right here. So join me next weekend for more of Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. And that is about the fact that we're about to get started with Super Monkey Ball 2 Challenge Mode as the one and only Tails. So that should be interesting. So I'll see you guys next weekend. Later fellas.